before midnight used to arrive without an announcement. No voices counting it down, no moment demanding attention. In many American homes, the year didn't end with celebration, it ended with a pause. A fire burned lower, a record finished its song. Someone looked at the clock, not to mark history, but to quietly acknowledge it. This was New Year's Eve in mid-century America, and it was nothing like what we see today. There was a time in America when New Year's Eve did not end with shouting, countdowns, or exploding light in the sky. No screaming crowds, no blaring horns, no midnight chaos. In many homes, it ended quietly. The room was dim. A lamp glowed in the corner. A fire crackled low in the fireplace. A record player turned slowly, almost unnoticed, letting jazz spill softly into the room. And when midnight came, nothing dramatic happened. No one yelled, no one counted backward. Time simply crossed over, the way it always had. This was New Year's Eve in mid-century America, and it felt nothing like it does today. To understand why, we have to step back into a country that had learned to live with restraint, with patience, and with silence. A nation taught to hold back by the middle of the 20th century, America had already lived through enormous upheaval. The Great Depression had taught families how to endure scarcity. World War II had taught them how to wait, for letters, for news, for loved ones to come home. Celebration, when it happened, was careful. Even joy carried a sense of gravity. For many Americans, New Year's was not about starting something new. It was about surviving what had already passed. That mindset shaped everything, including how people marked the turning of the year. The living room was the center of the night in the 1940s and 1950s. New Year's Eve was rarely about going out. It was about staying in. The living room mattered more than the street. Families gathered around radios. Long before televisions became common. Later, when TV entered the home, it was still treated as something to be watched quietly. Together, there was no pressure to perform happiness, no expectation to be loud. If music played, it was jazz or crooners, Frank Sinatra, Nat King Cole, Ella Fitzgerald, voices that invited listening, not shouting. Silence wasn't awkward, it was comfortable. Midnight didn't need a countdown. The modern countdown, 10, 9, 8, feels ancient. But at ayers and single quotes too in mid-century America, midnight didn't arrive with drama. Clocks struck 12. Church bells rang in some towns. In others, nothing marked the moment at all. People simply noticed the time. Sometimes, someone would say, well, it's the new year. A quiet kiss might follow, a handshake, a nod. And then life continued. This wasn't sadness, it was composure. Why silence felt right? Silence carried meaning then. For a generation shaped by war and economic uncertainty, noise was not comfort. Calm was. Many adults associated loud celebration with chaos, with instability. Quiet meant safety, control, order. New Year's Eve became a moment to sit with the past rather than escape it. People reflected instead of resetting. They thought about what the year had taken and what it had allowed them to keep. The role of religion and reflection. Church played a quiet but powerful role in shaping the tone of New Year's. In many communities, New Year's Eve services focused on gratitude, repentance, and reflection. The year was something to account for, not throw away. Even in secular homes, that sense lingered. You didn't cheer away time, you respected it. The passing of midnight was less a celebration and more an acknowledgement. Men, women, and emotional reservement. Century social norms discouraged overt emotion, especially in men. Joy was private, sadness was contained, hope was practical. New Year's Eve mirrored those expectations. There was no pressure to cry, shout, or proclaim resolutions. Goals were discussed quietly, if at all. Many people believed that speaking hopes aloud invited disappointment, better to keep them close. The fireplace, the record player, the pause. If you walked into a mid-century American home just before midnight, you might see a fire burning low, a drink poured but untouched, a record ending with a soft crackle of vinyl. Someone would get up to flip the record. Someone else would add a log to the fire. The silence between sounds mattered as much as the sounds themselves. That pause, that stillness, was the heart of the night. Times Square was not the center yet, though Times Square celebrations existed. They were not the cultural anchor they are today. Most Americans experienced New Year's through their own homes, not through crowds on television. The idea that the entire country should experience midnight the same way had not yet taken hold. New Year's was personal, local, intimate, when the shift began by the late 1960s and into the 1970s. Something began to change. Television grew louder, advertising grew bolder. Celebration became something to display, not just feel. The quiet living room gave way to spectacle. New Year's slowly transformed from a reflective pause into a performance. The silence faded. What was lost? With the noise modern New Year's Eve is filled with energy, but it rarely leaves room for reflection. Mid-century America understood something we have largely forgotten. A year ending is not only an ending, it is a reckoning. Silence gave people space to sit with memory, with grief, with gratitude, without distraction. Why this still resonates? When people say New Year's doesn't feel the same anymore, they are not just being nostalgic. They are remembering a time when celebration didn't demand volume, when midnight didn't require proof, when a quiet room, a shared glance, and a turning clock were enough. Tonight, somewhere, a fire still burns quietly. A record still plays in the background. Someone notices the time change without saying a word. If you've ever felt that New Year's should feel calmer than it does, if you remember nights like this, or wish you had lived them, tell me in the comments, how did New Year's feel in your home growing up? Those memories matter, and they don't deserve to be rushed. Somewhere tonight, someone will sit in a quiet room as the year ends. No countdown, no noise, just the sound of time passing the way it always has. If New Year's ever felt calmer in your memory than it does now, or if you wish it could feel that way again, leave a comment with what you remember. These moments fade quickly, but they don't disappear if we share them.